Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the programme tonight. Campaigning for the 2024 general elections is now over. With just one phase, the seventh and final phase left to vote. Voting for that seventh phase takes place on Saturday. Saturday evening is going to be exciting. Why? Because exit polls will start coming out in the evening. Now, we'll be doing a poll of exit polls on NDTV to help define or get an idea of trends and patterns. Exit polls individually often go wrong, but it would be interesting to see some of the patterns where it's all headed. So Saturday evening, you need to be over here because we've got a lot of stuff planned. But on the show tonight, a deep dive into phase 7, where voting is still to take place, why it's important, and also as campaigning ends, the larger question at the end of campaign 2024, remember that's ended right now today, ideology, development, caste or religion, or so many other issues, what really has defined the campaign? And we ask this because so many say and ask this one question: what has this election really been about? Has it been about Narendra Modi and his speeches and his appeal out and out? Or have there been real issues? And if there hasn't been one national issue, will this be decided on the basis of local issues? Was ideology that important? Was the development plank decisive? Could it be? What about old caste equations, which have always had an important say in Indian politics, or the religion card? Polarization, has that been a significant factor? We'll try and get views from our analysts and political commentators, start analyzing what this campaign has really been all about. But in order to do that, I think it's important that we roll out a couple of graphics. So let's have graphic 1, where we can actually take a look at what happened in the 2019 Lok Sabha result. Remember, first to phase 1 to phase 6 in 2019, the NDA had won 322 seats, of which the BJP had won 278. So that's just incredible numbers. And the point that needs to be made is for the opposition to actually overcome that, the swing that would be required would be massive. The Congress just 44, the India Alliance at 110 last time, and others, 54 of which the YSRC was at 22. Let's go across to the next graphic, again to put the context of what we are talking about. And remember, what we were looking at over there was phase 1 to phase 6. That's because phase 7 is yet to be decided. So the 2019 overall results, the BJP at 303, the India Alliance at 129, the Congress just at 52. Okay, let's quickly go down to the next point, the top 5 parties we can look at. The BJP top at 303, winning 37.3% of the vote. The Congress far below with 52 seats and just 19.5% of the vote. This was a one-way election is what a lot of people would have said, and which really boils down to strike rate. The BJP had a strike rate in 2019 of 69%. The Congress had a strike rate of just 12%. And finally, before we get our comments, the average margin of victory in 2019, this is interesting because the average margin of victory, that's what MOV stands for the BJP was 20.2%, and in numbers, again apologies for that typo over there, it's 2.3 lakhs. So that was the average margin of victory in lakhs for the BJP, whereas for the Congress, the margin of victory percent was 11.3%, right? And the margin of victory in absolute numbers was 1.2. So the point over there, which is significant, is that the BJP, when it did win, was actually winning in a much, much bigger way. Before we move on to that graphic on rally counts, I just wanted to introduce our panel, Dr. Guru Prakash Paswan of the BJP with us, Salman Soz of the Congress Party with us, Amitabh Tiwari with me in the studio, Neerja Chaudhary as well, and I'll be joined by the senior journalist Nishtha Gautam in just a little while from now. But Amitabh, you'd made an interesting point as we get further into this analysis, and you'd written about it. You'd said that people who believe that the BJP could lose this election often cite the example of 2004 when Vajpayee, who was a huge favourite at that time, lost the election, he lost the mandate. All exit polls had failed to gauge the public mood back then. Do you sense, on the basis of being on the ground, talking to everybody, that there is a public mood which might be really calling for change this time around? Amitabh.
See, if we look at numbers, because you showed that the BJP's average margin is 20.2% in 2019. Now, if we look at the average margin of BJP in 1999, when it won, and in 2004 it lost. In 1999, the average margin of BJP was 9.8%. So that was within a close contest range because you required a swing of 5%. That's why BJP ultimately lost the election, because it was not a comfortable lead. Now, if you go to the ground and you listen to the reports and you meet people, you do see a sense of discontent, disillusionment, because price rise, unemployment, corruption also to some extent are big issues in this election. However, whether that discontent has been converted into anger, because there is a political process for it, it automatically does not convert into anger, and anger is where, or anger is the emotion where the BJP would feel the heat. So, if this emotion has converted into anger, the discontent or disillusionment, then is where the opposition has a real chance, and I don't see that this discontent or disillusionment has converted into an anger that we will throw out this government and whoever comes in we will see. So, that sort of a situation at least I don't see.
You know, Salman, I'll ask you to respond in a moment to that, but as you do that, Salman, consider this data. In 2019, the BJP's average winning margin for its victory of seats was about 2.32 lakh votes and 20 percentage points in terms of a vote share. A victory margin of 20 percentage points is considered completely one-sided because a swing of more than 10 percentage points is needed to tilt that contest. Do you believe anything can actually generate that in 2024?
Thank you, Vishnu. Well, first, let me just say that this election has been quite an election. I think nobody, not you, Vishnu, not Mr. Tiwari, not Neeraji, nobody could have imagined that we'll be talking at the end of the election about whether or not this government is going to return to power. I think everybody had basically written off the opposition, had basically said that this was going to be a cakewalk, and the Prime Minister would not even have to go for his meditation. He would be getting ready for a coronation. But that is how politics is. Like they say, in politics, 1 week is a long, long time. I think comparing this election to the 2019 election is totally wrong. And there's a reason for that. If you remember, Vishnu, before Pulwama happened, and I think all of you will remember, all opinion polls were dropping the Modi government well below the majority mark in 2018 and 19, before the election. After Pulwama happened, of course, there was this nationalist fervor, and I think the Prime Minister, quite shamelessly at times, really fought the elections and basically showed the photos of army men and women. And I think, anyway, so the BJP got a big victory out of that. But I think the baseline that we should be thinking about is not the 2019 result, but the opinion polls of 2018 and early 2019 before Pulwama. That is the baseline. If you take that as the baseline, you have entirely a very different situation. I think most analysts, I'm shocked that people actually don't think about it. You're quoting to me margins that are post-Pulwama Balakot. That's a totally different election.
So Pulwama Balakot won the BJP the election last time. That's what you're saying. That's essentially what you're saying, right? That Pulwama Balakot won the BJP the election. Go ahead, go ahead, yeah.
In fact, Vishnu, if you look at what happened to Mr. Vajpayee in the India Shining campaign, there was rural distress. I remember BJP used to talk about 60 million jobs have been created. And how were those jobs created? Because people who were not working otherwise, like women and old people in rural areas, there was so much distress, they had to start working. And that is why Mr. Vajpayee lost. And now, if you look at what has happened in this election, there are reports throughout the country of distress. There are reports throughout the country of no wave like the one we saw in 2014 and 2019.
Okay.
Nothing like that. So this is a very standard election where economic issues have come to the fore. And let me just say, and let me thank the opposition parties, and let me thank my own party. We were very disciplined. We did not focus on anything.
Okay, Salman, different issues. We'll talk about party discipline in a bit, but I think you made a couple of important points. Dr. Guru Prakash Paswan, the essential point that Salman says, the big point, was that 2019 was won by the NDA on the back of Pulwama and Balakot, in a sense national security, which was an issue which brought the country together. The BJP believes, the Congress believes that was a factor. I would suggest that the BJP says that was just one of many factors, perhaps. But how would you respond to what he says now when he says that in the absence of a Balakot or Pulwama, this time around elections will be decided on local issues, perhaps traditional issues, whether it's caste or development or employment or corruption?
Vishnu, I think it's very important and very critical for us political people to understand that when you question the integrity, when you question the wisdom of the Indian voter is far more intelligent than all of us combined. All our wit, all our wisdom on one side, and the DNA of the Indian voter on one side. So to say that Indian voter voted on one issue, I think it's questioning the judgment, and it is also speaking of your feudal sense of entitlement. And I do not blame the Congress party for this. And second, he said the issues of caste, the issue of representation, more than 15 elections have happened since 2019. The BJP strike rate is more than 90%. The 1.4 billion people of India, they are strongly standing with the Bharatiya Janata Party. We have to understand, when you speak of representation, for the first time after 2019, we saw an Adivasi woman reaching the highest constitutional office in the country. For the first time, we saw a person from an extremely humble background, from extremely backward class, becoming one of the most powerful prime minister of the country. For the first time, we saw any country reaching to the south pole of the moon. For the first time, we saw India becoming the 5th largest economic power. We are on the path of becoming the 3rd largest economic power. For the first time, we saw 58% of voting in Jammu Kashmir, Mr. Soze's own state. For the first time, we saw after the revocation of Article 370.
Is there a dominant narrative this time around? Because you pointed to 6 or 7 issues.
Vishnuji, I did not interfere when you were speaking.
No, I'm just trying to understand, is there a dominant narrative this time around?
Yeah, exactly. Vishnu, we need to understand that for the first time, we have changed the entire political discourse. The last 10 years report card, we went to the people of India. And we have presented the 25 years roadmap that how to become the Viksit Bharat. We are becoming developed nation, and we have a roadmap for it. We have a vision, we have the imagination. So to question the wisdom of the Indian voter, I find it really feudal. I find it as a sense of entitlement. And that is the problem with the Congress party. The Congress party cannot tolerate an extremely humble background person becoming one of the most powerful prime minister. The Congress party cannot tolerate an Adivasi ki beati reaching the highest constitutional office in the country. So that is the difference between the Bharatiya Janata Party narrative and the Congress narrative. The BJP, the Prime Minister Modi speaks about taking 1.4 billion people together. It's not about one family like the India Alliance.
All right, okay. So I'm not sure I got a full answer to my question on whether there was a dominant narrative or not. But I think one area where the BJP and Prime Minister Modi personally has been exemplary is in terms of the energy. And Nija, would you like to come in over here? Let's have a look at the rally count of Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi and Amit Shah as well. Let's roll graphic 11, if we can just bring that up. Prime Minister Modi had 206 rallies and roadshows. And in doing that, he broke his own 2019 record. Let's have that graphic up. 206 rallies and roadshows, 80 interviews. He's broken his own 2019 record. Amit Shah did 200 rallies and roadshows. Compare that with Rahul Gandhi, half of what the Prime Minister has done, approximately at 107 rallies and public meetings. Priyanka Gandhi has actually done more, with 150 rallies and public meetings. Mallikarjun Kharge with 100 rallies and 50 interviews. Mamta with 107 rallies. Tejasvi Yadav has actually done more than the Prime Minister at 251 rallies. Kejriwal was detained for a while at 67 rallies, and Akhilesh Yadav at 82 rallies. So compared to the Prime Minister, Nija, very few leaders, actually match up in terms of that energy. And him and Amit Shah combined seem to be reaching much more than the heaviest hitters of the Congress party, Rahul and Priyanka.
Yeah, but the BJP is humongous machinery plus the energy, as you say, by its top two leaders. The number of road shows and rallies, they are at it all the time. And they've displayed a killer instinct, a drive for power that we have seen in the last 10 years. Every single election, whether it's a national election or whether it's a local election, they bring this energy to bear. And as I said, there is an organization which they've built up in the last 10 years. Election machinery, the like of it doesn't exist anywhere in the world today. And I think that is the reason, while I would say it is true that the opposition this time, which was supposed to be, it was a done deal at the outset of the election campaign, opposition has fought very well. And it has changed the narrative in many parts. I'm sitting in Bombay, and for a while, the market has been very nervous. Where, at the beginning, Narendra Modi was supposed to come back to power. We all thought that very boring election. We all know what the outcome is. It may still happen. But, to have the market suddenly nervous about what's going to happen. That's the way the opposition managed to change the narrative.
By the way, Amitabh disagrees with you on the markets. He says that the markets are being volatile and inconsistent and that there is nothing for them to necessarily be perturbed. But go ahead. I think Amitabh would make a point.
I'm talking to people in the finance corporate world, and I'm passing on to you what they're saying.
Sure.
It's become much better after the RBI's intervention. They're much more stable now and say they know where it's headed. But certainly there was a period when there was nervousness. But on the energy part, so what I'm saying is, yes, joblessness, big issue this time. And people who were dissatisfied spoke vigorously. They were very articulate in expressing this. Rising prices, big issue. And on the other hand, yes, there is no Modi wave visible of the kind that was seen in 2014 or 2019, but there is certainly a Modi factor, a compelling central factor in in this election.
Sure.
Do people want him to continue? Many want him to continue. They want to give him more time. And some of them who are dissatisfied say, but we don't want to vote for the other side because that is not a national alternative. You may find in the state election, many of these, these parties that have shown energy, the opposition parties may do very well. Haryana, Maharashtra, Delhi, and so on. But in a national poll, are people still continuing at the end of 10 years is a long time to give another stint to the Prime Minister.
Just in trying to analyze your answer now. You've mentioned 3 or 4 points. You've spoken about the jitters in the market. You've spoken about incumbency being a possible factor. You've spoken about Modi and what people have to think about him. You've spoken about rising prices as well. So these are 4 separate issues. My question to you, Nija, is, again, it's going to be based on individual choices and not a dominant narrative. Is that your assessment as well?
There isn't a dominant narrative. That's absolutely right. But if there is a narrative, at the heart of it is Narendra Modi.
Right. So he is the narrative,
his
as we've
leadership.
seen in the past.
Do people want to continue with the BJP and give Narendra Modi another chance? And it is as much about what they feel he's done as about no option election this time at the national level. So I think that is of course, Modi versus local has come to the fore, where the local factors are very dominant. It may be a bad candidate, it may be a good candidate, it may be a caste lineup, and Modi wave has not managed to subsume those things.
Sure.
So they have come to the fore. But overall, I agree with you, there has not been a dominant narrative. The Prime Ministers have tried to make it into a Hindu-Muslim polarization. I would be very interested to know and to study from the results whether that has had traction, because to begin with, it wasn't a Hindu-Muslim election.
Didn't seem to be that. Thanks, Nija. Just going across to Nishtha Gautam, who joins us now. Let's roll out the next set of graphics, get Nishtha to speak about this. We're talking about the All India turnout 2019 versus 2024. This has been one of the big talking points this election. I suspect it was a talking point for the first two phases, and then after that, this didn't be. It's not as much of a talking point now. I wonder why. But I think that it is interesting. If you look at that data, 2019 is the column on your left. 2024 is this time around. And between phase 1 to phase 6, just look at the blue column right in the bottom. The change is 1.7%, 2019 to 2024. In phase 1, it was down 3.9%, down 3.4% in phase 2, minus 1.2. It gained slightly in the next couple of phases. This is revised data. Again, it went down in phase 6, and all in all, down 1.7%. It really depends, Nishta, isn't it, on who you ask, on who this is favoring. Some parties will say, how can you assume that a low voter turnout is going to benefit the opposition or vice versa? If we are to look at this data, what do you actually see in it?
Vishnu, I've always maintained this, that the committed voter base of a party, whether it is the Congress party or the BJP or the regional party, it always goes out and presses the button. It is the swing voter that has its hesitations with respect to the utility of its vote. Who am I going to vote for, whether it is going to make any difference, particularly in the state of Maharashtra, where there has been a lot of topsy-turvy in terms of candidates and even parties going haywire in terms of their alliances, their ideologies and stuff. So yes, there has been a lot of confusion in certain states whether our vote is going to matter or not. But eventually, people have gone out and voted. And 2019, we have to understand that it was an anomaly because the kind of voter turnout that 2019 elections saw was unprecedented. And I always maintain that whenever people stay back, it does not mean that they are, when people do not go out and vote, when they stay at home. That's what is called as lower voter turnout.
Right.
It does not really mean that they are going for a change in the government. It's just that they feel that either it is a foregone conclusion that they're going to win either way, or we are going to express our anger, but we are not angry enough to go and vote the next competitor.
Sure.
And that's what everybody gets wrong.
I just wanted to look at the turnout of women voters this time. So let's just have graphic 8A up. Again, 2019 versus the previous election, which was in 2014, because the vote of women absolutely crucial. It's a decider, very much the case. So there have been 79 seats where in 2019 the women turnout was 5% or greater than 5% higher than 2014. 79 seats where in 2019 the turnout of women was 5% or higher than in 2014. And in these 79 seats, the BJP contested 73, they won 64. The strike rate was 87.7%. In these seats, the Congress contested 66, but they ended up winning only 8 with a strike rate of just 12.1%. So the conclusion some would suggest is that in seats where the turnout of women went up between 2014 and 2019, it overwhelmingly favors the BJP.
And there's a reason for that.
Amitabh, how would you look at this?
Yeah, of course, the data is clearly in favor
And this
of the BJP.
is a key constituency for the BJP. They're building up on this as well.
Yeah. And on the overall turnout, which you showed the graphic, in phase 5 and 6, the overall women turnout is higher than male, even in this election.
Yes.
That's a very important point when you bring in this element. So women have been making independent decisions and they have been emerging as kingmakers in various elections. A very interesting point which Mr. Salman made was that the opinion polls were giving 230, 240 to the BJP before the Pulwama airstrike happened. That's correct. However, even post the Pulwama, nobody was giving 350 to the BJP. The best or the average was only 280. So the increase in the seats to BJP projected at that point of time was only 280-ish. So in hindsight, it appears that there was a wave and the BJP won because of Pulwama, but even in April, nobody was saying that the BJP could get a simple majority on its own or 350 seats.
I'll come to Salman in a moment, but I just want to go on with the issue of, with the theme of women's turnout, 2019 versus 2014. If we have graphic 8B up, this actually refers to areas of 10% or higher turnout for women from 2014 to 2019, right? So there were 24 seats in 2019 where the women turnout was greater than 10% higher than 2014. And in these 24 seats, the BJP won 24 of 24 with a 100% strike rate. So again, women turnout in seats where there was a higher, the successor parties in seats where there was a higher turnout of women has gone in favor of the BJP between 2014 and 2019. Salman, in the past, the woman voter for the Congress was a core constituency. It obviously is right now. Quite besides these statistics, the fact that the BJP has focused a great deal on specific schemes for women, right? And we've seen the impact of this even in the assembly elections, for example, in Madhya Pradesh. Is that, somewhere where the Congress may be falling behind?
I think we know that in the last election, in the 2019 election, women voters they did favor the BJP. Everybody knows about it, and those schemes have continued. And by the way, those schemes will continue. And it's not the Prime Minister basically said we're going to continue them for 5 years for a reason, because there is distress. But women are also not single issue voters where you're going to give them 5 kilograms of ration and say that, okay, we're taking care of you, because those are not the only needs for women. Women have other needs, like their children. They need jobs. Their children need better education. Their children need a better future. That is not, women are smart. They just don't want you to think that you're going to give them 5 kilograms of ration and then you vote and everything is with you for the next 5 years. That's not going to happen. And the Congress party, I think, has done a great job. And the India Alliance per se. Basically, what we have said is that not only are we going to continue these schemes, because people need these schemes. People are in distress. That is why the Prime Minister's policies have devastated rural communities. Wage growth is stagnant. Highest unemployment rate in almost 5 decades. Lowest personal savings in almost 5 decades. Lowest personal savings. So all of that is happening, and those are the messages that we stuck with, that we need to strengthen women. We talk about the Mahalakshmi scheme of 1 lakh rupees per year. We talk about Pehli Naukri Pakki, which is both for young men and young women, for everybody. So those are the kinds of schemes that we've got. Now, by the way, just to address some of the other things that you mentioned, you talked about the Prime Minister being very energetic and going around the country. I'm glad he's doing all that. He needs all the exercise, and after that he can rest. After this election, he'll get plenty of rest. But our campaign, the India Alliance's campaign, is distributed across the country. We have leaders across the country, from Mamata Banerjee, from Akhilesh Yadav, from Tejashwi Yadav, Mr. Stalin. In the south, we have Mr. Thackeray in Maharashtra, Mr. Pawar in Maharashtra. We have a distributed campaign. You cannot compare, you can't just take numbers and say that this person's working this much and this person's not working at all. And by the way, the India Alliance's campaign is basically, it was triggered by the yatras that Mr. Rahul Gandhi undertook.
Right.
And Mr. Rahul Gandhi, wherever you go on social media, wherever you go, Mr. Rahul Gandhi is basically the heart and soul of the Congress Party's campaign. Everybody knows it. He's not only the heart and soul of our campaign, but even the India Alliance partners are working with him throughout the campaign.
All right. Okay. So you say that you are spread out. I take that point.
And one final thing.
Quickly.
Vishnu, if you will allow me. The BJP spokesman was basically, manufacturing outrage out of nothing. I did not say anything about the president of the country. Of course, we respect her. She's our first tribal president. Great. That's a wonderful thing. But the country should not forget, and the BJP spokesperson should perhaps learn some history. The first backward president was Gyani Zail Singh. The first, and by the way, during the Congress Party's rule, the first Dalit president of this country was Mr. Kyan.
All right, Salman, 1 second. Now, I must balance this out. No, 1 second. Salman, you've made your point. It can't be a monologue. You made your point. Dr. Paswar, I think 3 key points that Salman focused on: personal savings, employment, and I would add particularly in the unregulated sector, and the issue of job creation. Do you believe these are 3 issues, economic issues, right, which could actually impact the BJP negatively?
No, Vishnu, I think if you give me the same amount of time that
yes,
you,
you do have the same. Please go right ahead.
The Ujjwala scheme, more than 10 crore gas connection to the rural and the poor women. The Lakpati Didi. We have the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, 100% sanitation, total sanitation, and what was the figure in 2014? Less than 30% people had access to toilet. But for the first time, there is 100% toilet accessibility, and that is the reason. Nari Shakti. For the first time, we saw women getting representation in the parliament, in the Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha. The Congress party, the entire Samajwadi party, what they used to say, lipstick lagane wali women aa jayengi, lipstick lagane wali, makeup karne wali mahilaye aa jayengi, and today they are speaking about women representation. This is nothing but laughable and reflects that patriarchal mindset. For the first time, the Prime Minister ensured that our mataएं, our behne can also be the part of parliament, can also be the part of Vidhan Sabha. Mudra loan, more than 55 crore beneficiaries. We saw primarily women from OBC, SC and ST. Abolition of triple talaq. The Congress party never spoke about them. In fact, let me also mention for your viewers that the Congress party had the audacity, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi had the audacity to reverse the very progressive Shah Bano verdict, where the Supreme Court came forward and said that Muslim divorced women are entitled to maintenance money. But the Congress party, in its quest of minority appeasement, reversed that very progressive judgment. So we have to understand, on the one hand, you have a Congress narrative, the Indi narrative, which is anti-women, patriarchal, opposes the representation of women at the panchayat level, at the parliament and at the Vidhan Sabha. And on the other hand, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has done a historical work, very remarkably, to give Nari Shakti Vandan, where in 2029 we would saw women representation in the Lok Sabha, women representation in the Vidhan Sabha. For the first time, Vishnu, we saw a woman defense minister, a woman finance minister. So that is a very strong message. We are very comfortable, we are very confident that the higher voter turnout of our women folks will definitely, they will come out and bless the Bharatiya Janata Party, because the real face of Congress party, the real face of India Alliance is hypocritical and dual standard when it comes to women empowerment and gender justice.
All right, okay. I think I've given both of you equal time. Salman, I can't come back to you. And to be fair, I'm going to end this discussion, so nobody can have more time on this. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us.